cái chuẩn tao đâu mấy đâu.
Phải đu lẹ này đây ra này.
At 11 a.m. on Monday, two sections of a Chinese dam gave way, and within hours, a region of over 50 million people was fighting for its life. This is the Liulan Reservoir in Hangzhou City, part of Nanning, the capital of China's Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region. Footage of the moment the dam body ruptured spread across social media within minutes, showing a wall of water tearing into the basin below. Officials confirmed 2 deaths in Nanning. An estimated 170,000 people were placed under imminent threat. Nearly 48,000 residents were forced to flee their homes, and across the wider region, roughly 55,000 people were directly impacted. But the dam collapse is not the whole story. It is not even the most dangerous part of the story, because at the same time Liulan was failing, 2 other reservoirs nearby were quietly pushed past their limits, and almost nobody outside Guangxi noticed. Typhoon Maisak, the 10th named storm of the year, made landfall in Hainan on July 3rd, before weakening and tracking through Guangxi toward Vietnam. What should have been a fading system instead unloaded days of what Chinese meteorologists called extreme torrential rain. By Monday, water levels at 82 monitoring stations along 65 rivers in Guangxi had risen above warning thresholds, some by as much as 5.8 meters. On the Dongbanjiang River in Binyang County, the water exceeded its warning line by 33 meters, producing what officials called a once-in-50-years flood in the town of Gantang. Roads there disappeared underwater up to the 2nd floor of nearby buildings. In Fangshangang, farther southwest, rivers overflowed and swallowed vehicles up to their rooftops. Streets in Nanning, Fangshangang, and Guigang turned into open lakes. Rescue crews switched to motorboats. One resident in Wangshuang village said the water reached the 2nd floor of homes, trapping families on the 3rd floor while they waited for boats to arrive. Then came Hangzhou. At around 11 a.m. Monday, staff at the Liulan Reservoir Service Station confirmed that 2 sections of the dam body had collapsed, sending a surge of water into the basin below. Nanning's Emergency Management Committee raised the city's flood control response from the lowest tier straight to level 1, the highest possible alert, in a matter of hours. Officials say no one died in the immediate collapse zone. More than 300 residents trapped by flooded roads were evacuated to higher ground in time. But here is the detail that tells the real story. Liulan wasn't the only reservoir in trouble that day. While the world's attention was fixed on the dramatic footage of Liulan's dam body giving way, 2 more reservoirs were failing in silence. The Yunbiao Reservoir, also in Hangzhou, overtopped and breached at nearly the same time as Liulan. And in Binyang County, the Liuwang Reservoir overtopped as well. 3 reservoirs, 2 breaches. One system pushed to its absolute limit, and only one of them made the headlines. Wait, if Liulan wasn't acting alone, why did every early report focus on a single dam? The answer says something uncomfortable about how these events are measured and reported. Liulan is the largest medium-sized reservoir in the area, holding more than 93 million cubic meters of water and irrigating nearly 25,000 acres of farmland. It is the reservoir with a name, a service station, and staff who could confirm what happened in real time. Yunbiao and Liuwang are smaller, quieter, and harder to monitor, which means the full scale of what actually happened on Monday may still not be fully known. And the water levels tell their own story. Just before it failed, Liulan's reservoir had climbed to 111.20 meters, 0.91 meters above its maximum flood design capacity. Operators fully opened the floodgates to relieve pressure, but the dam body gave way anyway. If the largest, best-monitored reservoir in the region couldn't hold, the real question is, how many smaller, unmonitored structures across Guangxi are sitting in the same condition right now? Thursday, continuous extreme torrential rain begins hammering Guangxi. according to Nanning's Municipal Emergency Management Committee. Friday, July 3rd, Typhoon Maysak makes landfall in Hainan, grounding flights and halting ferries. Saturday, July 4th, local authorities in Hangzhou report multiple reservoirs beginning to breach or spill over their banks, following what residents describe as a big deluge. Sunday, July 5th, Fangshengang is hit by extremely heavy rain, triggering severe urban flooding. Unofficial measurements at Bafeng Village in Binyang County record 713.3 millimeters of rain in 24 hours, reportedly the highest single-day rainfall total recorded anywhere in Guangxi during the entire event. In two villages under Fangshenggang's jurisdiction, floodwater reaches roughly 1 meters deep. In Zhongping town, high winds topple trees and knock down power poles, cutting electricity and cell service. Monday, July 6th, 11 a.m., the Liulan dam body ruptures in two sections. Monday, 11:30 a.m., Nanning raises its flood control emergency response to level 1. Monday, 4:00 p.m., Guangxi's regional government extends the highest flood response level to both Nanning and Guigang. By Monday evening, forecasters at the Nanning Hydrological Center projected the Yujiang River would peak near 71 meters, well above its official warning line of 69.4 meters. To understand why a dam built to hold back millions of cubic meters of water can fail in under an hour, you have to understand what overtopping actually does to an earthen embankment. Most medium-sized reservoir dams in rural China, including Liulan, are built as earth-fill embankments, essentially engineered mounds of compacted soil and clay, not solid concrete walls. They're designed to hold a certain volume of water below a fixed maximum level. When rainfall pushes the reservoir past that design capacity, as it did at Liulan, by nearly a full meter water begins to spill over the top of the embankment itself. That overflow is catastrophic for an earthen dam. Water pouring over the crest erodes the downstream face of the structure, cutting channels into the soil. Those channels deepen with every passing minute, weakening the embankment from within until a section simply gives way, not a slow leak, but a sudden structural collapse, releasing the reservoir's stored volume all at once. This is why operators fully opened Liulan's floodgates before the collapse. It wasn't a failure of judgment, it was an attempt to lower the water level faster than the rain was refilling it. It didn't work in time. But this raises the deeper question. Why were three reservoirs in the same district all pushed to failure simultaneously? The answer isn't really about Maysak. It's about geography. Guangxi sits in a karst landscape, a terrain shaped by centuries of water dissolving limestone bedrock into a dense, interconnected network of underground channels, sinkholes, and rapid drainage basins. On the surface, this creates the region's famous dramatic peaks. Below the surface, it creates something far more dangerous during extreme rainfall, a landscape that channels enormous volumes of water into concentrated points faster than open, level ground ever could. Layer onto that a network of reservoirs built decades ago, many as medium and small-sized irrigation infrastructure, never designed for the intensity of rainfall events becoming more common with a warming climate. When 82 monitoring stations across 65 rivers all exceed warning thresholds within the same 24-hour window, you're not looking at isolated local failures. You're looking at an entire regional hydrological system reaching its threshold at once, a signal that the infrastructure built to manage yesterday's storms is being tested by a different climate altogether. This is not the first time Guangxi's water infrastructure has been pushed to the edge, and history offers a warning about what happens when it isn't enough. Southern China's flood season has repeatedly exposed the vulnerability of aging, medium-sized reservoirs across the region. In past major flood years, similar earth-fill dams in rural Chinese provinces have failed under overtopping conditions, sometimes with catastrophic downstream loss of life when warning systems couldn't outrun the water. The pattern is consistent, heavy, concentrated rainfall, a reservoir built for a different era's climate, and a race between drainage and collapse that the drainage frequently loses. What makes this year different is scale. 3 reservoirs strained simultaneously. A rainfall total 713.3 millimeters in 24 hours that ranks among the most extreme ever recorded in the region. and a storm that had already been downgraded before it caused this much damage. Locally, the immediate danger is drowning, displacement, and the 2 confirmed deaths in Nanning, including, according to one resident, her brother and uncle who went missing after being swept away by floodwaters while riding an electric bicycle. Regionally, the damage is already cutting into infrastructure that connects Guangxi to the outside world. China Railway Nanning Group suspended international rail service, including the T8701 passenger train from Nanning to Gia Lam, Vietnam, Fangchenggang, a coastal city, reported seawater intrusion compounding the freshwater, flooding a sign that the crisis isn't confined to rivers and reservoirs alone. Nationally, Beijing has responded at scale. The National Commission for Disaster Prevention, Mitigation, and Relief activated a Level 4 National Disaster Relief Response. The National Development and Reform Commission allocated 100 million yuan, roughly 13.9 million, from the central budget for emergency recovery. More than 800 residents have been evacuated from the hardest-hit reservoir zones, 600 livestock relocated, and 16 metric tons of relief supplies distributed. Armed police have searched more than 500 households. System-wide, meteorologists warn the danger isn't confined to Guangxi. Heavy rainfall is forecast to continue into Tuesday across Guangxi, Guangdong, and Hunan, 3 regions, with a combined population exceeding 150 million people. Rain is expected to begin subsiding only from Wednesday. How many other reservoirs across Guangxi are currently sitting at or near their maximum flood design capacity, unmonitored and unreported? If Lulan, the largest, most closely watched reservoir in the area, failed despite operators opening its floodgates in time, what does that mean for smaller structures with no dedicated staff at all? With rain still forecast through Tuesday and floodwaters yet to fully recede, has the region already seen its worst moment? Or is the next failure still ahead? And as extreme rainfall events like this become more frequent, is aging reservoir infrastructure across southern China quietly becoming the next major point of failure? Tonight, floodwaters are still moving through Guangxi's rivers, still pressing against reservoir walls built for a different era of weather. The Yujiang River is still climbing toward a peak forecasters say could exceed its warning line by more than 1.5 meters. Search teams are still working through submerged villages, and 2 families are still waiting for news of the men swept away outside Fulong village. China's main flood season has only just begun, and if Monday's collapse taught officials anything, it's that the infrastructure holding back this region's water is being tested in ways it was never built to withstand. If you want to understand what happens next in Guangxi and what it means for the millions of people living downstream of aging dams across the country, subscribe, because this story is far from finished.